Hi, my name is Ray Wayne Gonzalez, and welcome to Things You Pretend to Know About, where we talk about things that you think you might know, but really you have no idea.
Things you pretend to know about. Things you pretend to know. Things you pretend to know about. Things you pretend to know.
Hi, and welcome to Things You Pretend to Know About. Today on the show, we're gearing up for the midterm elections with my friends Elena and Charles. Personally, I don't know a lot about politics. All I know is that I don't like what's going on right now. And I think voting in the midterm elections can make a change, even if it's small. And Elena and Charles know a lot about politics, so they kind of take this one for me. And I'm just learning, which is the point of the podcast. But yeah, the midterm elections are super important, which I didn't know until this year, and more so until after this podcast. But you'll find out why during this podcast. I found out why, and you'll find out a bunch of other stuff that is really it's just a lot, but it's really informative, and you should know all this stuff. So give it a listen. I think you'll really enjoy. I know I did. And please, 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 please vote. Vote tomorrow, please. Just don't be lazy. Vote. It's really fucking important. Please vote. Okay. Love you. Thanks. Bye. I'm just gonna start recording and we can just get into it.
Like, are you done?
Are you done with this? I'm lost. I do not.
I'm panicked.
Hey guys,
I'm panicked. So when I
panic.
panic, I zone out. I completely shut down.
But we'll be talking about Kavanaugh, so
Yeah.
we can just be sad now.
Yeah, we can just be
We
sad
can all
now.
just.
Well, I wanted to just to start. I wanted to do this on voting day, just so people actually fucking vote, because I'm terrified that they won't.
A lot of people didn't vote. I might not be able to vote because I just took too long to get my absentee ballot in Ohio. But
Are you from Ohio?
I'm from Texas, but I was registered to vote in Ohio.
Oh yeah, this is Charles. Do you want to introduce
are you
yourself?
recording already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm Charles E. Jerica. I don't know. What do you want to know? What?
Just that's it.
I'm 24. From Texas. Just moved here a year ago from.
Stop
Sorry.
playing with your coffee cup.
I'm nervous. I'm one of.
You're good.
I'm Ray's boyfriend's homie.
Well, I thought we were homies too.
We're friends as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I'm also her better half, other half.
And then we're back with Elena.
Yeah. There you go.
Hello, everyone.
From the infamous Trump episode.
Yeah, I won't be as angry. I'll be angry this time, but I won't have such
About
an
other
urge to kill. But
So we have a whole list here of things just to update everybody, and you should figure out your voting thing.
I'm really gonna try to. I mailed it in.
Yeah.
They said it would be there by yesterday or
Oh,
today.
okay. Oh, yeah.
that
good
happened
then.
to my boyfriend. He's
Yeah.
registered in Indiana, and they just haven't sent it. And he registered. He did it when he was supposed to, 3 months ago or whatever, and they just haven't sent it. And he's really need to vote for Joe Donnelly. I don't know if you know. He's the Democratic senator from Indiana who has a tough fight.
Who's he running up against?
A faceless Republican. I don't think it's anyone even very interesting, but it's just a lot of money's being thrown in because and he didn't vote for Brett Kavanaugh, unlike Joe Manchin.
And you're from and yours is yours the Beto?
Beto's in Texas.
In Texas.
Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, which is Ted Cruz is really has nothing to say because
He's not even in Texas.
Yeah, but also at the he just had he looked like he stood for something during the 2016 election because he stood up against Trump.
Yeah, but now he's like his little
And
bitch.
now he's like, oh, it's all good, bro. Like we're cool now. Even though
You called my wife ugly.
he called his wife like you're right, like a
Your
dog or
father's the
something.
Zodiac killer.
Yeah, like he like talked like crazy shit, and like at first it seemed like he had a backbone, and now like we clearly see that, you know, Ted Cruz just like he's really about staying in power, you know. Like,
You mean Rafael Cruz?
Raphael,
You know that's his first name?
That is his real name. Yeah.
And he's like given. I don't know what Beto's actual first name is. I think isn't it Robert?
I hope he wins, dude.
I would like that.
I mean, I love Beto's name, Beto O'Rourke. Like that's
it's a good name.
dude. It's such a cool
But Ted
name.
Cruz was like, oh, like you're just trying to be like Latino, and it's like, dude, your name's Raphael.
Right? You're trying not to be Latino.
You're trying to be Ted.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're
Also,
gonna get.
Cruz is
It's very
Glad.
very Hispanic. You know, it's
Fucking
like
Ted Cruz.
so.
Fortunately, he's not in the hot topics, so.
no.
Yeah, so that's.
But I mean, it is like a
It's
big, it is a
midterm.
big race just because like this is one of the first times in a solid like 20 plus years that a Democratic contender actually is
chance.
has a chance to take a Republican out of, you know, power in Texas, which is like a blanketed red state. Like,
Yeah,
just
right.
being from there, like I can attest to like literally,
Where in Texas
like,
are you from?
Austin, which is like a liberal
Blue but
city.
gerrymandered, so it's not.
Exactly. And it's extremely gentrified and it's run by fucking like corporate money. And so it's kind of like, I don't know, there's like a lot of illusions of grandeur out there. Like everyone's like, oh, it's a liberal, it's cool, blah, blah, blah. But yet you go 20 minutes outside of downtown and you see a lot of cowboy hats, you see Trump stickers, you see, you know, don't mess with Texas and like don't treat on me stickers and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of very like, not as many Confederate flags as you would think, but still just as many Confederate flags. You
Hey,
know what I mean?
there are mad Confederate flags in like Westchester and Long Island, so.
Yo, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I've seen Confederate flags in Ohio. I was like, yo, you weren't even part of the Confederate.
I know.
Yeah, I was like, where do you think you are? Like, I don't know. But
It's so dumb.
Yeah, Georgia's. I just moved to Atlanta and I'm talking to my phone. But
what
yeah,
part though?
East Atlanta.
Oh, okay, hey,
So-
zone 6. My mom lives in Lawrenceville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a dog walker these days. I walk a lot of dogs in Lawrenceville, actually.
Word?
Yeah.
It's just the woods.
Yeah, Atlanta's weird like that. It's like downtown and suddenly it's like suburbs, and then you go a little farther and it's like, oh, we're out here.
Yeah, like, yeah.
But you know, once you leave Atlanta, it's like there's like tons of Stacey Abrams things everywhere.
Shout
And
out
then
to
you
Stacey
literally go
Abrams.
slightly out. Like I went to Stone Mountain to pick pumpkins and everything was Jack Kemp. And like a lot of Confederate, a lot of just wild things.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh.
And Oprah just talked for her, right?
Yeah.
That's good because Oprah talked for Obama too.
We can hope.
And we had him.
The problem is like, this is I guess a topic we were going to get to, but like Jack Kemp is the Secretary of State, which means he's
the referee.
the official for elections in the state of Georgia. And he obviously has not recused himself from any of the obvious like conflicts of interest.
No,
And
Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp.
what do I say? Was I saying Jack Kemp?
Yeah.
Isn't he an author? Who's Jack Kemp is a person, isn't he?
I don't know, but I was like, wait, isn't it Brian?
It is
But-
Brian Kemp. No,
but
you're absolutely right.
Anyways, continue.
Kemp.
You're right. You're on to what was more Kemp. You're right.
No, I'm
Was
curious.
on to much more important. The fact that he is essentially officiating the election and also competing in it. Like, I don't know. You've heard like the comparisons. It's like playing basketball, like playing one-on-one or playing tennis, and the ump also being the person you're playing against.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So like the person who has the rules is the person who you're competing against.
Yeah.
You know, so they can be like, you know, like when you're a little kid, you're playing a game with someone and it was their idea to play and they just keep making up rules as you go, you know? And so,
That's a good analogy.
yeah, basically that's how it is. And I don't know, like...
The big problem is that he's not, so there's, I don't know the number of how many people were registered to vote that are in like limbo right now, but they're not registering people.
Yeah.
And like 70, it's something around 70%. I should have the statistic, but I don't. Percent of people who have registered to vote that are in this limbo are black. And it's like, that's not really very discreet of you, Mr.
No,
Kemp.
not at all.
Also, Jack Kemp was Bob Dole's running mate.
And that's
Oh, yeah.
happening
That's what I was
like,
gonna say. He was a politician.
Bob Dole.
and that's happening like everywhere, right?
Yeah,
Like,
voter suppression
Yeah.
is extremely big this year,
That's
especially
crazy.
also in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, should I elaborate on it?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this is your time to shine.
But just like what she was saying, like Brian Kemp has been like notorious for voter suppression in Georgia. Like I was listening to MSNBC. Shout out to MSNBC. I listen to it every single day.
Shout out, they'll hear this. So.
I mean, I gotta give the big up. But there was like a story of, I don't know, I guess like some like kind of like community organizers went out to an old folks home in Georgia and like kind of like rallied a lot of people up to like, you know, a lot of older people to like go and, you know, get registered to vote, and wanted to take them to the polling. Take them to the polling, you know, station. And once they, I guess someone prior to, you know, them arriving notified that like the whoever, right? Like notified
like
them.
Administration at the nursing home.
Yeah, that they couldn't, you know, that they were on the way, and they were basically saying like, no, take them back. And they get there and no one was able to vote because of some strange like.
It was something of like they didn't have permission to take these people, because it's like, I know with nursing homes there's certain rules about like when you sign off, like whether you're able to leave without like permission. So it was something like that, but
something very like mundane and like arbitrary. You know, like in
they just didn't want them to vote.
Exactly.
It's like,
and it's like those
so
are
fucked.
Exactly, and those are like
take advantage of old people who like, you know, it's like,
otherwise like they ain't leaving. You know what I'm saying? Like they're at a nursing home. Like there's obviously not gonna be some type of like, you know, to use a hot button word, caravan to like pick them up and take them
that's
somewhere.
on the list.
You know, yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. But there was just like, this was their chance. Like someone was actually going out of their way to help these people exercise their like
their right to
their right to vote, and they were essentially like stopped at the gates and been like, for just no reason, like, no, you broke some kind of rule that really has nothing to do with, you know, it's like, I'm already here, like I should still be able to vote. They shouldn't, it's not like they're not prisoners or anything, you know what I mean? Like they're still essentially like, you know, grown adults,
autonomous people.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like they should just be able to like get out and go vote if they wanted to, you know, regardless of what rules that the, you know, nursing home had in place. But I don't know. That shit's like really bizarre.
I'm hearing like mad stuff. Like one, you can't vote without. I don't know where this is, but you can't.
Voter ID laws? Are you talking about?
Yeah, like you can't vote without a mailing address.
Yeah,
and a lot of indigenous
Dakota?
people have.
It was not like Native American
have
people.
PO boxes only.
Yeah, because like the reservations don't, like if you live on a reservation, you don't have like a address with like a mailbox. Yeah. So I forget I don't know what state it was.
Was that North Dakota? It was where a Native American woman is running for.
Oh yeah, that was the whole thing too. Is that it was like they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But voter suppression is a huge issue.
And it's fucked because like it was America who made the rule for them to not have an address. And now they're essentially saying, oh, because you don't have an address, you can't vote. And it's like, wait, but you didn't give me one. It's like, oh, my bad. I don't make the rules.
They are the Native Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Brett Kavanaugh.
That's the number one on the list because that happened like right at the end of September, early October. I don't know. I don't have dates here.
Dark time.
Yeah, I don't really know.
It was rough.
What to say other than...
I also got my wisdom teeth removed that week too. So
that's upsetting. So you were just like loopy and sad.
Just crying for no reason.
So here it says Susan Collins and Jeff Flake sealed the deal. What does that mean?
So essentially, I should have had the numbers of like what the votes were in the Senate, but it was very close, and they needed just one, or they needed two Republicans to decide that they were going to vote against, and they did not. And so people were really hoping that Susan Collins would flip and vote no, but she made a speech to the Senate and said that she completely had confidence in him and that he would be a good judge, and like It was upsetting.
It's just so
if you want to get annoyed, listen to it.
Did you see the SNL when she was like, I'm just one of the boys?
Yeah, that was actually hilarious.
That was funny.
I think the Brett Kavanaugh SNL like cold open was
amazing.
Yeah, it was actually very well done. But at the same time, it was like
too soon.
Not too soon, but I think I was like,
it's just upsetting. It's all
it was upsetting because it was like, I'm like, this is actually pretty accurate to what he said. You know what I mean? It's like there were only a few deviations from like what he was saying verbatim, you know? And
because it's so absurd and it's so like what I put under here was like, there was remember when the hearings happened and he was just incredibly hostile and just, I mean, I feel like I read like a million, I read a million think pieces that were just like, oh, like if a woman did this, they'd be like, oh, hysterical woman.
Yeah,
and it's like, he can just like yell and like pound his chest over like, how could you possibly accuse me of something like this? And it's just like, and then he wrote that Wall Street Journal op-ed that was like, maybe I shouldn't have said what I said, but I'm still a good judge. And it's just like, it just flies in the face of like judicial temperament. And I think it's so, what frustrates me, on the list of things that frustrate me, one of the things that frustrates me the most is that Republicans are constantly yelling about order and like returning to normal order and temperament and civility, but then they're like, you know, this guy is being incredibly hostile, and it's like but was also arguing for like conspiracy theories that this was done for the Clintons. No one's here helping the Clintons. No one wants to deal with the Clintons.
That was bizarre. That was like a bizarre trick out of the bag.
It was extremely
manipulative. It shows that he's so deep within the like Republican ideology that he is not like a fair and not even fair and balanced is the wrong word, but like impartial. That's the word. And it's just very upsetting. But I'm glad that I don't know if you know Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. She was the only Republican that voted no, even after Jeff Flake was like, oh, those women in the elevator made me upset, I'm gonna like delay it, and then was like, oh well, so even though I'm not running for re-election, I'm still gonna vote. And it's just,
it seemed like he had a heart for a second, and then he decided to run just run along party lines, which was...
he got a bunch of interviews on like the nightly news, and it was just like, oh, everyone pay attention to Jeff Flake.
And my dad was so hyped on it. My dad was like, if Jeff Flake ever runs for president, I'm voting for him. He's like,
it's just I'm too cynical, I guess. Because I just was like... But
now he's not feels that way because he voted for Kavanaugh. I found it very manipulative, the whole thing. Because, like, I was watching it and I was almost feeling bad for Kavanaugh when he was crying about his, like, parents and, like, his parents and his family were there. But then I was like, no. I shouldn't feel bad for this fool.
Nah, I mean, I got it, but at the same time, I was like, I feel like... Oh, am I too close?
No, you're good.
I felt like one thing that kept coming up in conversation with some of my friends were like, I feel like he's just keeping up the rules. Like, he knows it happened, right? Or at least, like, remembers to some extent. It's like, oh, shit, I have heard this before. You know, because there were text messages prior to her story coming out saying, like, oh, we need to get in contact with her. Like, this potentially may come out, and, like, having to, like, try and get her story together, or, like, to like, not say anything, you know? What was her name again? I'm blanking.
Christine Blasey Ford.
Yeah, Dr. Ford. So, like, it was clearly, like, an orchestrated effort to suppress Dr. Ford's story.
Yeah.
In addition to her, you know, preemptively coming out and saying, oh, Brett Kavanaugh should not be appointed or just, like, you know, considered for Supreme Court before all this even came out.
Before Trump even picked him.
Yeah, and before it just, like, saying it could be anybody, but not this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then he gets picked, and then it's like, okay, well, shit, now... It's like, now we see, it was like, clearly it wasn't something that, like, it was planned. You know what I mean?
The thing is, like, why would anyone do that?
Why would you?
It's like...
If nothing happened, you know?
But I think what you were saying gets to the point of the way it was being framed by Democrats versus Republicans, and like Republicans were framing the whole thing as like it's a trial, like he's innocent until proven guilty. That's not the case. Like it's a job interview, and the Democrats were kept saying that. I know Cory Booker especially was like, this is something that like, would you hire someone that was accused of sexual assault? Hopefully no.
Exactly.
And it's like, this isn't like, no one's entitled to a Supreme Court seat.
You're right.
Like no one, you have to be the best. And if there's anything about you that's not top notch in terms of being a Supreme Court justice, then you shouldn't be on the court.
The
for
vetting,
life.
the vetting process. No, you're right. Like the vetting process was it was as intense as it should have been. You know, if anything, it should have gone on. Obviously, it should have been more.
The FBI investigation should have been a lot more extensive.
Was a joke. It was a week long. No investigation is a week long unless it's on Law and Order SVU. You know what I mean?
I thought it was like, was it even a full? I don't even know if it was a full week.
It was. It was started like Friday and it ended like Thursday. You know what I mean?
Just like quick side note, Ice-T from SVU and also the rapper just liked my tweet.
That's exciting.
I did see that. Shout out to you, which was.
Anyway,
what did he say? He's gonna like. He said he was gonna like kill somebody or something.
He tweeted. I really wish the purge was a real thing. ... And I quote tweeted him and I said, "Don't. It's okay, Ice-T. Like you'll be all right. Like if anyone's gonna be all right, it's gonna be Ice-T."
Didn't he just get arrested? Was it him? It was
Ice-T.
I confused Ice-T and
Ice
Cube. They're both very calm people nowadays.
No, but it wasn't arrested for anything reasonable. It was I want to say it was because it's Ice-T and Coco, right?
Yeah.
They were driving in the city and went through a toll, and they were arrested for skipping the toll. I don't know if it was you can look it up, but I'm pretty sure I got some funny notification. I was like, "Excuse me."
In the purge, yeah,
he's
the toll guys in the purge. That's his first stop in the purge. Okay, anyway,
I don't know if we have anything else to say about Kavanaugh because we have a
because I mean we could literally be here all day. I mean, it's just,
I could have a whole episode on Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have to live with him now.
However, I just say I just heard that he and some other judge who's running for Congress right now are a part of some all-male lawyers club that it's all males and they meet like once or twice a year. And I was like, this seems like a weird. I don't know. I was like, this seems like some kind of weird like sex thing. I was like, this seems like some Eyes Wide Shut type of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it was like just a straight like lawyer boys club.
Yeah.
Like, it's like white dudes are into this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. It's just I get being in a fraternity. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. I was like, I get being in a fraternity. That's different, but like. You've left college, and you voluntarily want to be in an all males lawyer club that's exclusively no women allowed in 2000 and what the fuck ever. It's like
that's insane.
It's just I'm like it's bizarre to me. But
the main thing that bugs me about this is that like with Trump getting elected, as he's been our president for a while now, and now it just like shows that like. It doesn't fucking matter what any woman says, basically, you know, because
it doesn't matter what a white woman says, and I think that's what a lot of people were like super shook about it, and it was like, I was reading, I think I cannot remember the author's name, but she's black and she was talking about like all the white ladies were like freaking out because it's like, oh, like they're not listening to her, and it's like, okay, no one listened to Anita Hill,
right?
Like, no one's listening to. It's like the apex.
It made her,
it's like the white women have the most power of all the women, and it's like, oh, you're even gonna not listen to a white lady? Okay, we're all fucked.
Yeah, right. Like basically, like that was like the last straw.
That was very inarticulate, but you know what I'm saying.
No, you're right. You're right.
This argument that I'm referencing was
a doctor white woman,
exactly.
You know, like seemingly like a great person.
Yeah.
You're not even listening to her.
Exactly.
And it's like, wow, how, like, what does the world come to? It's like, well, this is kind of
Trump is an accused rapist of a, like,
I think
young
19
girls.
plus.
Yeah. So, there's that. Speaking of Trump, New York Times investigation of Trump's wealth. What's that about? I know nothing on this.
So it upsets me because this happened, I believe it was during the week of the Blasey Ford, the whole thing.
Her like testimony,
and it was kind of not talked about, but it's like an incredible investigation that two reporters from the New York Times, they spent like 8 months locked in like a little room in the Times building. Like no one could go in there. Like we had to clean it ourselves because we couldn't let the cleaning people in.
Wow.
Like, okay. But basically the moral of the story is that Trump received at least $413 million adjusted to current
times.
Yeah. And from his father through like tax dodges in the 90s. And essentially like they found this by looking through tax returns and financial records of Fred Trump, his father. And it basically, the two big findings that at least I found the most important to talk about were that his father essentially, instead of, because like the estate tax, I don't know what it is today, but it takes, I believe it's more than half. I didn't ever get on your internet, but it's fine.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It takes a large chunk, most of it, I'm pretty sure, of your money when you die and pass your wealth to your children. So he wanted to avoid that and essentially made his like children under 10 years old his landlords, which you could do. And then he would pay them rent. So they would only pay whatever other taxes are associated with that, but not. So he's basically giving his money to the kids. And like, I think it was like 8-year-old Donald Trump was like his landlord of like a large building. So he was a millionaire by that time because his father was paying his rent.
He's literally been rich his entire life. But please continue.
No, that was the one that I was just like, okay. And then
I've never heard of something like that before in my life.
Yo,
white collar crime, baby.
White collar crime in New York is legitimately like some of the most like devious fucking like, you know, bizarre, backwards, you know, institutions that exist in the world, honestly.
Yeah.
Like people will talk about third world countries being corrupt and like all this stuff and like, you know, a lot of corruption in like Europe and blah, blah, blah. But like the loopholes that exist for shit like this to happen to where you can avoid taxes just by like putting your kid's name on something, you know, like it's actually insane.
Oh yeah,
so
the crazier one I thought was, so that was just like, of course, Trump had the, you know, the small loan of $1 million. And it's by the age of 8, I guess.
Right, he says a modest loan for my father.
A modest loan. But so the other thing that I thought was really significant from this article is they talked about how, so most of the buildings that Fred Trump owned were in, I believe it was Brooklyn and Queens. And they were like he was known to be like the Henry Ford of middle class housing because they built apartments and houses really quickly. And it was, he was very, very good at it. And so he had all these properties and this was, I guess they talked to some tax experts and they were like, well, this is kind of fraud, but the statute of limitations on all this stuff is up. But that's a separate issue, statute of limitations. But basically the Trump siblings set up a company. It was called, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like Standard like Contractors or something. And they basically would fix all of the things in the buildings, but they would charge like 3 to 5 times more than what it was worth. So, fix the light bulb. If it's an $8 light bulb, they'd make it $24.
Oh, okay.
And so they would
money laundering.
And it was they basically like were given gifts from their dad via this method instead of paying taxes, instead of receiving it as an actual gift and having to pay taxes on it that way.
Okay. Okay. I see.
So it's very problematic. So
Extremely.
I think the moral of the story is to vote for Democrats so we can see Trump's tax returns because
why haven't I
there's no law. That's the problem.
There's no law, and because I think people just, one, they just gave up, and two, they were making so many excuses for Trump. You know, like, oh, look at Hillary's emails. I was like, well, we saw her emails, but we never saw Trump's tax returns. You know, and people use the email stuff as like a, I don't know, like it was kind of like a battle cry, you know, just like the lock her up shit, even though in 2018 people are still screaming lock her up, and it's like, yo, clearly she's not going to jail anytime soon, but a lot of Trump's homeboys are awaiting sentencing
on their way.
Yeah, they're on the way to jail within the next 2 weeks. Like Michael Cohen, Michael Flynn, fucking.
Well, George Papadopoulos. I think he took a plea deal though.
Classic.
I don't know why I'm missing the.
I can see. I know you're talking about the guy with the ostrich suit. What is his name?
The ostrich suit.
He had a suit made out of ostrich skin.
It's just
why am I not? We haven't
disgusting.
talked about him in 20 minutes, so I've just forgotten who this person is. It'll
come back in my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's. I mean, especially with Michael Cohen, who just kind of like flipped on him. I thought that was actually. It was hilarious, but at the same time, it was one of those things that you kind of just.
Yeah. So what is Michael Cohen saying about Trump now that he's like?
Because like. Trump as basically
Paul
like
Manafort.
Paul Manafort. There we go.
I was like, come on, brain.
The one who's actually the Paul Manafort, like, essentially stood out the longest. Like held out the longest, like trying to basically not snitch, and in hopes of getting not even a plea deal. But a pardon. He
wants to be pardoned. Yeah.
He wants to be pardoned, which in itself is extremely fucked up. It would be a huge miscarriage of justice if Trump pardoned Paul Manafort.
Right.
Because the crimes Paul Manafort committed were for Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it would just be something that would be in textbooks. Like our kids would be learning it. Already our kids are gonna learn about all this, but
and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, exactly. People are gonna be like, "Damn, we really allowed this to happen." But
oh god,
I think you're right. It's just one of those things. Like, not even just voting Democrat, just voting for people who aren't in the swamp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I just feel like at this point, this is my opinion, but. To vote, like, if you're after seeing everything you've seen the last 2 years of what the Republican Party has done and what it is turned into, you might have like some sort of like fantasy about like the Reagan years and what Republicans used to be and blah blah blah. But that's not what they are right now. Like this is what it is now. And if a person to this day would still identify themselves as a Republican to run for office, I'm not interested, and I don't think anyone should be, because. If you think what the Republican Party is doing is wrong in the national level, voting people who are local, it all contributes to it. And so I just feel like if you think what they're doing is fine, please vote. Yeah. But I just feel like, because I don't think Democrats should engage in voter suppression to prevent Republicans from going to the polls. Mm-hmm. But, I just feel like if you are disgusted by Trump and McConnell and my least favorite person, Paul Ryan. Paul
Ryan's a bitch. But you're right. 100%.
Yeah, but it's like if you're opposed to national leadership, you should vote local people in.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Especially because a lot worse shit happens on the local level. That's a lot more transparent. You know what I mean? Like Brian Kemp. The guy, another dude, I don't remember. His name's like Kings or something. He's a senator, I believe.
Are you talking about Steve King, like the white nationalist?
Yeah.
Like,
Steve King, right?
Yeah.
He is legitimately supported by right-wing nationalists in Europe, where white nationalism is like a recognized party. Out here, it's like, we don't really, associate with them. Like they're like, the fringe. Over there, they are actually gaining even more support. Like there's rallies.
Yeah, like the ADF or AFD from Germany. Like there's a lot of like actual recognized parties. Even like you can talk about like UKIP, which is like not white nationalist. But there's like a lot of parties that are. I mean, or you look at like Hungary, and like there's a lot of white nationalism that's scary.
It's actually insane.
It's like, and it's all tied to a lot of those groups. The very core is anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, we talk about what happened in Pittsburgh last weekend.
Yeah. Holy shit, dude.
And it's like, Trump, it's like, we need to be more civil. And it's like your support of your unwillingness to denounce anyone who supports you, even if it's a white nationalist, and saying it's both sides, it's good people. It's like they were chanting, Jews will not replace us. How can you... How dare you turn around and say that we need to be more civil when you're literally supporting people that talk like this, and just he cannot denounce anyone who gives him support. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, fucking denounce him. Denounce them.
Like you're the president.
How hard is it to tell David Duke to fuck off?
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like
you made made it. You're here already.
Well, the
You're
thing is,
president.
I thought you meant like he made it. I was like, he's contributed to it, but like, it's definitely, this is unfortunately historic
now
thing.
he like really can denounce it.
Well, he like, this goes back to like, President Trump likes to pretend that he's not the president. Like, he still likes to pretend that he's still fighting for the presidency. And he has his rallies and stuff. And it's like,
which
you
is
fucking
really
won.
bizarre. The rally shit.
It's so weird.
And then they're like, oh, why would you make a comparison to Hitler? It's like, why are you having rallies where people have chants? Like, lock her up.
Exactly. It's like, you know what I mean? Like,
and now the thing too is, what really scares me is, like, as a student of political science, like, him now like formally saying that he is a nationalist is very problematic.
He's like, oh, they don't like it that I'm gonna say it, but I'll say I'm a nationalist. It's like, yo, it's like the writing's on the wall. You know what I mean? Like, it's become, there's so many like pieces of evidence. There, like, everything, all the puzzle pieces are fitting together. There's no, sorry.
When you go like that, it makes so much noise.
But there's like,
it's hot.
Yeah, there's no hiding it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, he's clearly saying, I'm a nationalist. White nationalists support him. Like, clear racists support him. Just like Andrew Gillum in Florida with what's his name, DeSantis.
Have you seen that commercial? You put that in the show notes. The commercial of Ron DeSantis saying with his wife and being kid. Like, he's like, this is how you grow a wall.
It's really fucking.
Have you not
weird.
seen this?
No.
You should definitely watch it.
Put this in the show notes because it's wild.
It's actually it's really funny, and it's just like people saying, like, people are like, oh, Trump has nothing to do with the the midterms. It's like, nah, like, people supporting Trump, like candidates supporting Trump, or that's like their base. Like, it's like, oh, I'm a huge supporter of Donald Trump. Vote for me. Yeah. It's like, you like Trump, you're really gonna like me.
Well, in the past several years too, there's been like a push towards like the nationalization of local and state politics. Like that's been, and we can really see it now with the way that like local candidates, even like I think of like people running for like the state house in New York, like they talk about like, oh, like I support all of Trump's issues and like I would vote with Trump, and it's like, you don't vote with, you're in the state legislature, so it's just like, that's like, that's what you're just trying to like trigger all the Trump people.
That's exactly like that's the platform they're running on, like Trumpism. You know what I mean? Like they're essentially just trying to align themselves with his base, which is like a bizarre, frothy unwavering, unwavering, multitude of like thousands of people who just don't think he can do anything wrong, and just like believe in all this like this fake news. Sorry.
You can't see that Ray looks distraught.
I'm like bummed. I've just like been so bummed these past few weeks about like everything that's going on, and like I've just been like terrified. Like I like want to have kids one day, and then like recently I've been like, I don't know if I should have kids one day. You know what I mean?
I feel you.
Like it's just been like gnarly, and
we haven't even gotten to the environmental section
exactly.
yet.
That's been really fucking me up.
But yeah, I'm trying to think. Next, I have the NAFTA being replaced by the no longer sayable acronym USMCA, the United States Mexico Canada Agreement.
Yeah, what's that?
So briefly, it's what'd you say?
No, I remembered who, like Steve King was supporting in the Netherlands. It's Geert Wilders.
Yeah.
And Geert Wilders is a very out forward, straight, like, homophobic.
He's foul.
Islamophobe. Like only likes white people, and clearly has said we don't want Muslim people in the Netherlands. And Steve King's like all for him, and he was like, wait, why can't we work on getting white babies in America? Like they want white babies in the Netherlands. Like, why is it so bad for me to say that too? But it just popped up in my head because I had like talked about it on Facebook like for a solid like week, and I'm just like, yo, this guy's saying this.
I think the crazy thing about white nationalism is that there's, especially people like Wilders, like there's this thought that like there's nothing wrong with what they're saying. They just think it's not like they hate black people. They just, and this is what they'll say is like, we just think everyone should be in their own place. So like America is a white nation. Everyone should be white. Like the Jews should just go to Israel because that's where the Jews belong. And like Black people should go. I don't even know if they're saying let's just go to Africa. I don't know what the argument is.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's just like,
Let's bring back Liberia.
Yeah, it's like, it makes absolutely no
it's
sense.
just, and it also just like denies the existence of like mixed race people. Like, where do you go, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, do you stay here? Do you go back, to like Puerto Rico, which is still
But, like,
a colony.
I was thinking about
it's
this.
a colony.
Yeah. That's a good topic for another time too.
I was thinking, that I really want to talk about.
I took a whole class that was focused on Puerto Rican nationalism, so I would definitely be.
So if my dad's been
prepared
watching
to-
a lot of YouTube videos, it's getting him riled up. But
I can't imagine your dad riled up. He seems calm.
oh, that's funny. You don't know. He's crazy. But my dad was born in Puerto Rico, I think, before it was colonized by.
Before
He was not born before 1901, so your dad has always been a...
Oh, really? I thought it was like officially in the United States, like later.
just hit you with the
Sorry. That was sassy.
Your dad was not born before.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
no,
then
he's-
I would still, but then, so like with this whole thing, I would be an American.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, you...
Because wait. We're talking about the thing where he's like, I'm talking about the thing where he was like, people, whose parents weren't born in America should not be
birthright
American.
citizenship.
Yeah. Okay, so you're talking about that, but
I know we're talking
You
about
have
different
birthright
things, but
citizenship.
not even that, but because you're an American citizen, because Puerto Rico is
America.
Yeah. Both
You know what I
things
mean?
are true.
Yeah.
I
So
think I was
like,
getting mixed up with Hawaii, actually.
yeah. So basically, like my cousin, she just had a baby. She got deported from America, was sent back to Nigeria, right?
Recently?
Well, no. This happened years ago.
Okay.
Like, I grew up with her, and like, they tried to, fix something together for her, and like, within, more or less, you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it fell through, so she went back to Nigeria for like a long, long time.
Okay.
And then I was just in, Atlanta visiting, and I see her, and she's pregnant, which, she's not married. So her just popping up pregnant was a bit of a surprise for me after not seeing her for a decade. And I'm like, oh, word, that's a baby you got there. And I'm like, but wait, you're just visiting, like, but you're gonna, have your baby here.
Oh.
And so I'm like, you're walking into quite the bit of like,
Why now?
Illegal predicament.
legal. Yeah, you're like walking into like a legal predicament.
Yeah.
Like quite a bit of turmoil is like, ahead for you. But, inshallah, she figures all of it out. But I was talking to my mom. I'm like, yo, like, they might, like, you see, like, the birthright citizenship, and two of my siblings are anchor babies. So, like, I thought it was actually I think it's insane that they're trying to take it. But what you're talking about is a little different for you. But you're saying, like, you would think you wouldn't have citizenship.
No,
if
I
you
think
took
I
it
would.
away.
I would. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Because you were born here. The thing too is,
Puerto Rico's
so the
in
first,
America.
I think the most important point is that Trump
my mom's
cannot
from-
remove
He
birthright
can't
citizenship.
because
This is
it's
the 14th Amendment.
it's the amendment.
And it's not in exact words, but like
But
the
it's
legal community
just
has
a-
agreed that like that's what that means.
Yeah.
Because it was like you can't say okay now all the freed slaves aren't actually American
Just
citizens.
Exactly.
so
'Cause then,
fucking
yeah,
insane.
That was the whole point.
The downs, like the inverse, adverse, whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, what's the effect of that? Like,
Oh, yeah.
what happens afterwards? Like, does that mean we can just kind of? That means you
Also-
can get rid of free speech.
Also, his wife and his kids and like.
Yeah, I mean that's neither here
That's
nor
what I'm
there.
saying. Like, that's how muddy the situation gets. You know what I
so
mean?
Yeah, and then
Stupid.
Melania's parents just got citizenship.
Right.
So it's one of those things where
His literal kids wouldn't have. Like
yeah, exactly. And so it's one of those situations where he makes rules that only apply to other people, but when they actually apply to him, it's like
Yeah.
he's like, no, I'm not talking about myself. This is for you guys, not really for me.
But when
I'm
he
playing
says
by
you
rules.
guys too, it also is like the implication is like it always comes back to black and brown people.
Exactly, you're 100%
Or
right.
Asian. I mean, I feel like he hasn't said a lot of things. I mean, I
He
guess
doesn't
you could
really-
also you could lump Asian people in with that too, but he doesn't have nearly as many problems.
Yeah,
But
not as many qualms with the Asian community.
yeah, no, I feel like that's the dog whistle of
Yeah.
all of it is that they talk about citizenship and it's like he's basically saying I don't want women coming from the Northern Triangle of Central America coming in and having their babies here, and then they're citizens. Like that's what the
right.
you know, or your cousin or aunt, like they're that's like the nightmare. It's like, oh my god, like this African baby isn't an American baby. Like he or she doesn't belong here.
Exactly, and it's just backwards because like.
Nation of immigrants.
Exactly, and like you see, like these are people who eventually run for office, and then. But like it's crazy to me because I'm like, yo, this is the foundation of this country. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's from somewhere. Not everybody has to be just a bland white person who's like, oh, I'm Irish. You know, I'm a little bit of German. I'm a little bit of, you know, Spaniard. Like, it's okay to just like for someone to be like, I know exactly where I'm from. My parents are from there. I was born here. We've been in this country. You know what I mean? Like. I don't know, but continue what you were saying. Sorry.
Oh no, it's like then it even gets tricky when you see like conservative Irish and Italians, and it's like I think of my own family. Like my family they were all immigrants at one point in the last 100 years, and some of my family sooner, some of it later. But like when they came here, like my family came in like it was like 1909 or before 1910 they came, and they were treated like. They were a minority and they were treated like people of color. I'm sure you guys have seen like those old drawings of Irish people and they were like hairy and weird. Like it was just like these weird like distorted, like they don't look like Irish people. It's like you see an Irish person.
Distorted.
But it's like they literally made them look like gorillas. Like I was like, what? And you know, it's like how those people can turn around. And like I think of my grandparents, they are both immigrants, moved here in the 50s, and
from where?
Italy.
Okay, where?
And they are like ultra conservatives,
right?
And they cannot see themselves in current immigrants, and it's so problematic to me because I'm just like they see it as like we did the work, we learned the language, we became Americans, like we named our children, you know, Debbie, Diane, and Jennifer, like even though their names are Gennaro and Jovina, you know what I mean? Like it's like they're like we became Americans, like these like Mexicans need to become Americans too, and it's just like they get so upset, like, oh, why is Spanish printed everywhere? And it's just like, why does it affect you?
It doesn't,
like,
it doesn't make sense because I feel like some people, you know, like have this weird sense of like, oh, I'm good now. You know what I mean? Like I don't really care what you're going through. I still, you know, even though it's very similar to the situation that you were dealing with, you know, like especially with the whole like. Really taking into consideration the birthright citizenship. Some people whose kids got birthright citizenship are still like, oh no, but it shouldn't be for Mexicans or like anybody else. You know what I mean? It's like people love it when the law works for them.
Oh yeah.
And then if the law works for somebody else that they don't necessarily agree with, that's where an issue stems from. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's something that's all too common in America. You know, just like you're saying, like.
Just a lack of empathy. And I think that's what's so, what I can't understand is I'm like, I am not an immigrant. Like, I'm American. I grew up in a very, like, not at all multicultural community. Like, it was mostly white. And it's like, I didn't have any sort of, I didn't see people, with the exception of, like, we have in my community and in some of the surrounding towns, there's a lot of Central American immigrants, and you know everyone's like, oh, the day laborers, like nothing worse than that, and it's like, you know, how do you not understand that? Like, okay, so I feel like I hear my grandparents especially talk about like, oh, these like dirty people on the street, and it's just like, are you kidding me? Like you like to go out to eat? Yeah. Your restaurants
who's
are
making that food?
Yeah, are like it's just
who built your house?
It's so frustrating because it's like, how do you not see like people who have come here like up through Mexico and like however, like, cause there's a lot of different ways you can get in, but it's like they worked so hard and like you don't just leave where you're from. People like where they're from. Like I'm sure if you could stay in Honduras, they would like to stay in Honduras.
Exactly, you're right.
Why would they want to come here? And it's like, it's just, I mean, I guess we should talk about the caravan because it's very relevant to this, but it's just like, how do you look at people who are just trying so hard to make it work for their families and like contribute to society? Like, I don't know. It just, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
aside from the fact, aside from the fact that this caravan doesn't exist, you know, like this caravan's like essentially a made up fear tactic.
So what is this?
It's one of those, cause you know, like obviously like you would agree, the Republican Party is all about scaring people right now.
Yeah,
like white fear.
fear-mongering,
Fear mongering is a huge political tactic right now. Like making people afraid of like people who don't look like you, making white people afraid of anybody who isn't white, even though
the scariest of them all are the
white people. From what we've seen in the past, like 3 weeks, are clearly
alone.
like white males.
Terrorism.
You know what I mean? Like and it's like a clear fact. The number one, threat of gun violence in America is, or like mass shootings, are white males. But that's not just like people would call Trump the welfare president. However, the top percentage of the top demographic that has food stamps, welfare, are white people. But people
because
consider
the majority of the country is white. Like, that's what's so crazy. Is like people are like, oh, it's like all those like lazy black people just taking all the welfare, and it's just
and it's like
look at the numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
but people, it doesn't.
Where is the math?
Like I said earlier, the word I was struggling to find, it doesn't fit the narrative that they're trying to perpetuate, or like, kind of like cast over people's eyes. Like if I tell you the real numbers of like what's actually happening, you might be like, wait, like, oh, real word? Like, there's just as many European immigrants coming to America as, Hispanic immigrants. Like, oh, like, like not just Mexicans or, Hondurans and like, like Puerto Rican people, even though Puerto Rican people are citizens. You know what I mean?
America.
Yeah, but still, like, people consider Puerto Rican people illegal immigrants, but it's like, they're from a American state.
There's
they just don't like us.
Like more than half the country did not realize that like Puerto Ricans were citizens.
Exactly.
And it's like,
and it doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? And so like people, like if you present people with the truth, they're faced with like having to face their own truth. Their self-truth was like, oh, actually I'm just racist. Like it comes down to the point where it's just like, oh, like I actually just don't like these people. I'm using, fake facts and like fabricated facts from people that I think I trust, who I think represent my values, who essentially do represent their values, but their values are, rooted in like racism and like, xenophobia. And so it's just one of the, like the whole caravan situation just goes to show you like, it's all about being afraid in 2018.
Yeah.
Like
well, they're not. The thing is, like, the caravan is a thing. There's like around 4,000 people who are traveling together, and this is, I don't know if you guys know, like historically, there will be groups of migrants that will stick together because it's like safety in numbers, and most of these people, unlike what Trump said about them being dangerous Middle Eastern men, which was like my favorite. That was just like, what?
Which
like,
is the biggest curveball.
But so I'm sorry. So like they all came to go to Guatemala to then walk up. Okay, but no, it's primarily
a lot of bad dudes.
Women, children, and young men who have been targeted by gang violence, and then there's also a lot of people who are looking for they're economic migrants as well, but the majority of them are refugees looking for asylum, and it's just very frustrating that they're being painted as like, it's like the same thing as like MS-13, and it's just like, they are doing something that's legal, which is like by international law, if you are being persecuted within your country, you are legally allowed to go to the border and claim asylum.
Yeah.
And Trump is saying like, we're going to shoot them when they get to the border. And it's like, that is just...
Yeah, with rocks. I was like, rocks kill people too, right? Like, you ever heard of someone getting stoned?
Well, there was a man who was killed by rubber bullets in the border of Mexico. And so that's the whole thing, is that they just crossed the border into Mexico. Yeah. But they're like, I think someone said like 50 days away. They're not making it by the midterms. And if the Democrats, like George Soros, really did orchestrate this whole thing, they did a really shit job because they're nowhere near the border by the midterms. Like, it's just...
I think... where I was going with like it not being a real thing, like not being a real threat.
The crisis.
Yeah, the crisis. Yeah, exactly. Like the immigration crisis itself is extremely real. Like the refugee crisis is like very real. But in America, because of how America is not as like transparent. When I was in Paris and London, it is absolutely fucking rampant. Like I saw full like Middle Eastern families, like full African families just like chilling in the street, you know, like they live there. A guy pulled up on me. He was like, I just got here today. Like I like was on a boat. Like, do you have any money? And I'm like, nah, bro, I'm sorry. I was like in Paris like for like 30 minutes and like immediately saw all of it, you know, and like saw what Paris really is. Like the Paris that people don't see on TV where it's all immigrants, you know what I mean? Like the Paris that people are afraid of. And like, obviously, like, you know, a lot of like real terror attacks do actually happen there, you know, where it's like,
but they're not being done with the refugees. And I think that's the issue, is that the Paris attacks were perpetrated they were not by refugees.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they were by homegrown terrorists, which is just like exactly the issue we have in America, you know?
And I think the thing too is we don't see like describing like what is happening. There's not a crisis at the border. Like there were more detentions done in the Obama administration than there are in the Trump administration.
You're right.
And like I know like advocacy groups for immigrants called him like the deporter in chief. Like it wasn't, Obama's hands were certainly not clean on that. And the reason that we're not seeing migrants from Syria is just because they can't get, like you can't take a raft across the ocean, you know? And it's like Europe can't ignore this issue because people are able to come there, and like it's just, I don't know, that's like a topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
And it's so there's so much to like unpack there that I feel like it's just, but the caravan thing is just clearly, I think you were spot on. Like it's just a distraction.
It's a distraction, and it's a, like I was saying, really a fear tactic, because like that's what they've doubled down on, like making people scared of people voting. You know, like making, just like in Texas, Prairie View A&M, which is a big HBCU, historically Black college university in Texas, which I know a lot of people who went to. Shout out to Texas. But like for years, they have been trying to stop students who go there from voting, because it's like, even though like the law, I believe, is like, even if you're a student, you're still able to vote where you're a student at. Even if like you can physically go, you don't have to vote absentee. Like you can physically go. But the voter suppression tactics that they had been doing, you know, for years had been stopping students from voting at like that school. But it wasn't really happening at other schools. But it was happening at this HBCU. And just recently, I think like a few weeks ago, they allowed these students to start early voting. You know,
I haven't heard about this.
It's like, it's like a really big thing. You should look it up. Like Prairie View, just like Prairie. But it's one of those things that like voter suppression has been like perpetrated on the African American community since we were allowed to vote. You know what I mean?
And then people who work for Politico have the gall to say like, oh, like black turnout's low. Like, why isn't it? Like,
it's just like, because they're ripping up their ballots,
or
you
like,
know?
Like Latino, because it's like, I'm pretty confident in saying, because I'm so nervous at statistics now, because I feel like this is the issue that I have with the conversation with Nico, is that I want to make sure that what I'm saying is like fully accurate. It's factual, yeah. And because it's just like, I know trends, like what I like learned at school is like mostly like trend based, and like, so it's like, I don't want to be like 75%.
Right.
But it's also like, it's hard when like, this is something I wanted to mention earlier, but it's tricky when you're talking to someone and like you don't agree on the same facts, or you don't believe that the same sources are accurate. And it's like, if I'm looking at a number that's given by the US government or by like the Anti-Defamation League talking about like anti-Semitic acts rising by it's like 54%.
Right.
In between 50 and 55.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, they're just,
here you go.
What is this?
It's the Prairie View stuff. But you're right. I think it's extremely important to have like facts on your side if you have an argument. I mean, it's just like in, you know, like in court, or like, I don't know, I was on the debate team in high school because I'm a nerd, but like it's extremely important to have just like pure numbers on, sorry, I keep hitting this.
Okay,
I'm like a politician.
I just feel bad for my sound guy.
In my head.
I just feel bad for Will.
But it's like extremely important, because when like going up against someone who has like, you know, rivaling views, or just like, you know, a counter view of what you're trying to say, like if you don't have facts on your side, and they have numbers on their side, but yet it's like you know, like the inverse. So it's the opposite, you know, or like they're not really factual.
Right.
Like you've essentially kind of like lost the conversation, or like lost the argument because you can't say what's, you know, it's hard for you to say what's truthful, you know, or like say it with like conviction and know like, yeah, this is actually happening. Here you go.
Right.
But yeah.
I think it's important to like have like the accurate numbers, but I can't remember exactly what we're talking about, but it's probably a good time to move to another topic.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess we can even, I was starting to talk about NAFTA's replacement, but the moral of that story is just that it's basically very similar to the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that Trump was like, terrible deal, but it's like almost the same.
They just changed it, essentially.
The difference is that this doesn't have the Asian countries that were part of the agreement, and it's just, you're someone who's so adversarial towards China, you would think you'd want an agreement that partners with their regional partners in trade terms, but guess not.
I think it's one of those things where it's like Trump has just been on like a hell rampage, you know, to just undo everything Obama did, or, you know, Obama and Clinton did. You know? And Bush, even though it just makes no sense to me because I'm, you know, just like Obamacare, you know, like the Bears Ears Treaty, you know, just like a lot of things that, especially the Bears Ears thing, it's like, yo, this was not an issue for anybody. This didn't, you know what I mean? Like it didn't.
Do you know what this is?
I don't know what this is. I'm just nodding my head.
It's a national monument.
It's a national like antiquities something. It was because it was a Native American land that was, you know, kind of like it was basically, I think it was like through like Teddy Roosevelt or something like that.
It's been like designated as like a historical landmark for a very long time. And there's oil under it.
Oh.
Yeah, and there was like he was starting
oil or fracking. There's like
big business
energy is underneath
and allowing like I think it's like allowing like cattle that was, you know, to be killed to like graze through or something like that. And so it was like a lot of big business was, you know, had like their like, you know, sticky paws like trying to like get onto it. But Obama's, you know, legislature that he had passed was, you know, preventing them from doing so. And something that nobody was worried about. Like it wasn't a big deal, but clearly a lobbyist in that industry had just, you know, kind of like for sure there was some. The
issue is Ryan Zinke, who's the Interior Secretary, and he's actually was in the news this week. He was my most recent little thing at the end of this document, but he's under investigation for maintaining like close relationships with industry heads of the agencies the industries that he's supposed to be regulating, and has been like on private planes and. You know, not as egregious as Scott Pruitt, but pretty bad. For sure. And because he was also, I believe it was Ryan Zinke that was in trouble when there was the hurricane in Puerto Rico, and there was a company that was a private company that was doing contract work for the U.S. government to do some rebuilding of I believe it was the electrical grid, but it was like utilities stuff, and it was a small company that had really never done anything large scale before, and they were selected by I'm like 99% sure that it was Zinke, and they grew up in the same hometown in like North Dakota or some shit, and it was like, oh, I wonder how they got this contract, and they did a terrible job, and they actually like lost the contract, and it was a mess, and of course the Puerto Ricans suffered, but you know.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be like that.
It'd be like that. It'd do.
Well, it wasn't. I don't know if it was through FEMA. FEMA like bungled the thing too, but it was basically like this private company should never have gotten this contract, and if it was a fair process, they would never even been like considered. But
so do you want to talk about midterms?
Yeah.
All right. Because I don't really know much about this either.
Do you want to do like a run through of like who's like what like states are like really important right now, or like? Yeah, because I can give you like a few. I'm sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Be able to.
I didn't know what we wanted to talk about with midterms, so I'm open to whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you would have like. I can give you like the general overview, and I'm sure you would have like the actual facts and details.
So I have some numbers we can start with.
There we go.
There's 435 House seats and 33 U.S. Senate seats up for grabs. And there are 6,665 state positions and like thousands more local ones. So it's a big election, but it's not as big as presidential years, but a lot of seats up for grabs.
But it's like a lot of influential stuff that can essentially kind of like switch the path. Well, maybe not switch the path, but like start like the train guide it away from like this like really like left-wing fringe, not left-wing, right-wing fringe, like, endpoint that the country's kind of been going towards, where it's like to like voter suppression.
Like praying for that. I don't even know.
Well, it's like a momentum thing too, because you have like, so it's like the House is more likely than the Senate to flip Democrat. It's not, it would be very unlikely for the Democrats to win, to take over the Senate. But in the House, everyone's like, ooh, blue wave, and it's like, it's important that there's like a lot of energy, but the issue is like the like, if you look at polls, like the margin that, of like the Democrats winning is actually smaller than what we thought Hillary Clinton would win by. So it's still very, 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 very close. And, I think like there could be no complacency. Like if you guys, like I'm canvassing for Stacey Abrams on Monday. Like if you have time, like this weekend, like anyone who's listening, I mean, this will come out on the midterms, but it's like, it's really important to do in-person canvassing because you get, like the returns are much greater. And the best thing you can do is talk to your friends and make sure that everyone's voting. Because a lot of people are registered to vote, but like if you haven't registered yet, you're in trouble. But it's like, if you're registered, like you gotta vote.
And it just doesn't make any sense that states aren't allowing people to. I feel like there's like definitely been like a whole like orchestration to just like kind of like stop younger people from voting.
Absolutely.
Or make it like seem like it's not really cool, or it's just like, because I know with my friends, a lot of my friends, I'll talk to them about politics and they're like, oh, I just feel like I don't know, and I just like, it's not my thing, and blah blah blah, and like I don't pay attention to politics. I'm like, yo, like you can't just get on Instagram and like kind of like complain about something, post an article and like, I feel
that
like,
so strongly. You can't complain about Trump and then not fucking vote.
Exactly.
Like it is one of the easiest ways to, like, in my opinion, like perform your civic duty.
Yeah.
Like I just like, and like there are people, like I have some friends who like give me arguments for why like they don't believe in voting. A lot of them are like Marxist and like, I'm not entertaining that right now. Like you have to vote. You just have to vote.
And
if you give me an intellectual opinion while you're not voting, then like, okay, whatever. But like most people who aren't voting do not have some sort of principled philosophical reason why they don't support like the
it's just laziness or like lack
it is straight up laziness, and just like, kind of like a conscious decision to be like, you know what, nah, whatever. I'll even take the flack, like I was saying, like I just took too long because I was like, but I'll be like, yo, I definitely had a lot of shit that was going on with my life, but I've for sure could have done this a lot sooner. You know what I mean? Even though, but I know for
absentee voting is trickier though.
It is for sure, and it's not like, especially it being like my first time. Like I didn't know until like this year or until like recently that midterms were just as important, if not almost more important than the presidential.
I didn't know
presidential
either,
election is very important, obviously. Like it's the person who's gonna be running the country, but given the way America runs, like with checks and balances and like the branches of government, midterms is just as important because it's a lot of those people who are going to vote, with stuff the president, proposes. You know what I mean? Just like we saw with Obama. Congress and the Senate can stop anything that they want. You know what I mean? If they're in solidarity against what...
Well, you saw the Republicans into Obama.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like they can just like, just be an extreme roadblock against what, the, commander-in-chief wants to happen. But when it's, two houses of the same party, which is a pretty fucking stupid thing to me, because it almost like, it like goes against checks and balances, because it's like, well, you're all the same party and you all want to fall in line with Trump, because if I mean, nowadays, because it's like, if you don't fall in line with Trump, like, you're on the chopping block. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to publicly talk shit about you, even though you're in the same party. Supposedly. I genuinely don't believe Trump's a Republican.
He is not ideologically
he's not.
principled.
I don't think he's
reformed,
Republican.
nor
Like,
is he intellectually curious.
No,
so
not
I
whatsoever.
don't really, yeah.
I think the most accurate thing he said about his political alliance is that he's a nationalist, for sure. But at the end of the day, Trump prays to money. Like, Trump's a capitalist.
Yeah.
Which isn't a political party, but I think it should be. You know what I mean? Like, I think of capitalism is a political party. Like, these people worry about money. You know, like, he's not worried about any social justice rights. Like, he doesn't care about, you know, like, he'll say,
Oh, yeah, he's very recently a pro-life supporter.
exactly. Before he was like, oh, I'm gonna protect the LGBTQ community, and then all of a sudden
He's
he just
taking
keeps
away
doing
trans rights.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like define, you know, a
I don't
person's
even-
sex is, you know, just with the traditional binary, like male or female.
No, that was in your birth certificate.
Exactly. You know, and not be able to change it, which is just one of those things. Like, constantly we've seen in this administration, like, solutions looking for problems. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it just throwing
nobody
red
was
meat
working.
at the base. Like, I feel like it's like trans people, like, trans issues are so, they are significant in the fact that it's in my opinion, it's a human rights thing. But in the scheme of what we should be talking about in elections, it's like talking about trans things, talking about like them trying to attack trans people or like immigrants and all that. It's just like, it's just distraction from everything else. And it's like, it's just, they just do it to make their supporters happy and like really piss off Democrats who care about trans people. And it's just like, it's not like, this is, we're talking about like a national election. Like, this is for people who so hate identity politics. It's like, they do it like all the time.
yeah, you're right.
It's just, I don't know. It's just, if you guys don't care about identity politics, then why are you trying to like legally fuck trans people?
Yeah.
Like, don't you have better things to focus on? Like,
Yeah.
aren't you supposed to be selling that tax plan that no one
Exactly.
wants to talk about?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
ugh.
But let's talk about like specific states.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
We're
like
talking
you
about
said.
Beto.
Yeah, Beto and Ted Cruz in Texas.
I don't know why.
Brian-
I know why, but I want him to win so bad.
Everyone
Well,
does.
everyone
All the
does.
Republican, every person hates
No one
Ted
fucks
Cruz.
with Ted Cruz.
No one likes
No one
Ted
fucks with Ted
Cruz.
Cruz. After like, he
After
seemed,
2014, it's like, no.
it's like he seemed like he was like, you know, he had a back. Like I said, he seemed like he had a backbone once he was like, nah, I'm not fucking with Trump. He took the low road when I was trying to take, you know, not even just take the high road, or like, he was, you know, everyone plays dirty, but he started like, not even slinging mud. He was just throwing shit at Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was things that, he was crossing into territory that people have like the common decency to not do. You know, like,
Now he's calling him Beautiful Ted. Do you guys hear that?
and it's
He's a
weird
beautiful
because
Ted. I was
because
like,
it's
he's a
like
Beautiful Ted.
right, because it's like, oh, now you want to, you know, it's like, oh, okay, you see, clearly I'm like the mob boss, and now like I can't kill you, but I can make other people want to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like The Godfather or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, to make people like, he knew that he couldn't take Ted Cruz out of power, but he knew he could fuck with Ted Cruz's base and essentially make his base not like him.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ted Cruz did a good job of doing that on his own without, you know, having Trump continue it.
Yeah,
But
he's alright. But anyway, keep going past.
But
Texas.
you know, we got Florida, Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis, which Andrew Gillum is I think he's like a very qualified candidate.
Okay.
Like, some of the stuff, I love it, just me being like a black Southerner. Some of the stuff he says is just like very like, it like just reminds me of like old Southern people. And like, Ron DeSantis just doesn't know how to respond because there's just like a certain wit that he has. Like, I'd have to show you a video, but
I think it's important to have. He's liberal.
Yeah, he's a Democratic candidate. And he's the mayor of Tallahassee.
That's probably important to have in Florida.
Yeah, and he's just, I feel like he's a much more like grounded and, you know, and like aware of his constituents in Florida. And he said one thing that I think we kind of touched on. He was like, I'm not calling DeSantis a racist, but clearly the racists seem to think he's a racist, which is like a huge thing in America right now. Like Trump will not be like, oh, I'm not racist. Well, racist people seem to agree with you and think you know, y'all have something in common. So like, obviously there's got to be an issue there. You know what I mean? I think, like, who else? Who do you think?
I'm just going through. There's a lot of interesting. So the race you were talking about with Native American voter suppression, that's in Kansas's 3rd congressional district. That's
right. Kansas.
The Republican is Kevin Yoder. He's been in office since 2012, and he has voted consistently for the GOP tax cuts, and has voted most of the time with Trump, as well as the Obamacare repeal. And then the Democrat is Sharice Davids. She is a former mixed martial arts fighter. She's Native American and part of the LGBTQ community.
Hell yeah.
And so, let's see. They're saying that Democrats actually have a decent shot at flipping the district, because the district did actually go to Clinton by 1 point in 2016. And it's like a suburban district outside of Kansas City and its suburbs. So that could be an interesting race.
Do you know who Andrew Cuomo is running up against? Because, you know, like...
No, because I reluctantly voted for Cuomo after Cynthia Nixon.
Really?
I wasn't gonna vote for the Republican. You know, like, I think that I wanted Cynthia Nixon to win, but like...
Yeah, no, I get it. Obviously, like...
I'm not a Cuomo fan.
Yeah, but it's him over, you know, the Republican ticket.
She's not qualified.
Who, Cynthia Nixon? But I think the topic she was talking about, but, you know, back to you, qualified thing. I think qualification has gone out the window. Out the fucking window.
Absolutely.
A celebrity, like, already with, you know,
Akon,
who started it.
Akon wants to
run.
I'd vote for him over Trump.
True, but I couldn't.
Has Kanye confirmed that he's still running in 2020?
I don't think he is about to.
Oh, he's done with politics, isn't he?
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully he's done with politics. I think that'd be in him and everyone's best interest.
Yeah.
But Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was like, and fucking Ronald Reagan, like, it's been a thing where people on the right, you know, have like...
But Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't do a terrible job, did he?
He didn't. I don't think he did a terrible job. But
I think with Cynthia Nixon, like, my argument, people would say, like, she doesn't have experience, is like she ran a nonprofit advocacy group for LGBT rights. So it's like my thing is, if you're a governor, I have an issue with the direct, like, CEO to executive branch positions. You know, like, I don't think that perfectly prepares you for that job, but you know, you have to recognize too that, like, politicians have plenty of aides doing all sorts of things. Like, I worked for the mayor of Boston, and, like, of course, like, smart guy, like, he had a lot of his own ideas, but he had an advisor for every topic that were experts in it. He had people who were in charge of operations, like, all kinds of jobs that, like the way I see, like, a lot of people in those positions is, like, they're making the final choice, but they're being coached. A politician is not just, like,
one person.
It's not one person, it's the administration.
Yeah.
And it's like, if she was to get elected and surround herself with good, competent, experienced people, I wouldn't be so worried about her history.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, like, I just felt like I found the debate between Cuomo and Nixon to be appalling on Cuomo's end. I thought he was incredibly rude and dismissive. I really had an issue with the way he talked to her.
I think it also because he felt like she was an unqualified woman. It's one of those things, like, that a lot of old white men do, and they're like, what are you talking to me for? You know what I mean? Like,
no, exactly.
He's like, get out of here, little girl. Like, you know, but at the same time, Andrew Cuomo is, like, what they called, like, an Albany insider. You know what I mean? Like, he's been in
like
the
his
seat.
aide, Joe Prococo, who was, like, threatening people, and I think he was referring to money as lasagna, which I think is fucking hilarious. Well, he was clearly a problematic individual.
Yeah, like, it's like one of, it's
how
like
New York of him.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I was like,
he's
that's
very
my problem. Is
into it.
I'm just like, oh god, like, my, like, American Italian ass is just like the lasagna. like
he's like very much like a new age form of, like, you know, organized crime. You know, like, if someone told me, like if it came out that Andrew Cuomo was like gonna be indicted for some kind of like being affiliated with like organized crime or like, you know, some kind of like RICO charge or some shit like that.
You wouldn't gasp?
I wouldn't gasp. I'd be like, oh shit, it's about time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
naming the bridge after the fucking Tappan Zee after his daddy.
And
the
like
Mario Cuomo Tappan Zee bridge. Okay.
And just like fucking what's his name? Christie in Jersey. His fucking large ass. Like he was like,
all I can see is a picture of him on that beach when they closed the beaches down.
Exactly. Like and the one time like when someone said something to him and he got in the guy's face at a baseball game.
Yeah.
And it's just his pants up to his chest. Like, and he's like standing over this guy.
His body confuses me.
It's
like,
his body.
I don't understand like the anatomy there, but that's not my business.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just he's a very oddly shaped guy. Let's say that. But like closing down the beach so his family could have a private beach day. Crazy miscarry of like, you know, public tax dollars.
Wasn't even sunny that day.
Exactly. Taking, and then they got him on camera too. So it's it's like the funniest thing. I'm just like,
he's an interesting character though. I don't know if people know he was, so when Trump took office, it was very clear that like at least he didn't, whether he didn't expect to win or he didn't want to deal with, so like there's laws that require the presidential candidates, Democrat and Republican, to prepare the transition team and make sure that they have people that are ready to be briefed when the administration's changed. And so Obama was also required to have people. Trump, they just weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
And Christie was like, reached out to Pence and was like, hey, like, you guys need to set this up. Like, you're going to have a problem if you don't set up an administration. And he basically did a lot of work to try to get the transition team set up. And apparently did like a fine job of it. But when Trump did win, he basically eliminated everyone that Christie had picked and like just threw new people in there. And like so a lot of them like weren't vetted, and that's why you end up with issues with Michael Flynn, because Christie was like, do not pick Michael Flynn. Like that is a bad idea. Like you will have problems with this person.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an interesting Christie fact that I did not know until quite recently. But I'm not saying anything good about him, but just
but you're right.
But
like it's
at least unlike Trump, he is aware of like how government ought to function, and like you have to do certain things, honestly, and you can't just break all the precedents. Like you have to.
I think that's one huge issue that a lot of like Republicans kind of graze over. Like I worked for a dude in Ohio who, trust fund kid, worked in fashion, but was like very right wing, but just didn't really talk about it much unless it was like he was like around like people he knew.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I like Trump because he's like kind of like a disruptor. Like he like he doesn't like play by the rules and blah blah. I was like, I'll be honest with you, I kind of want my politicians to play by the rules. You know, like I was like, I don't mind if you're a career politician because you know how shit goes. I'd rather you not be some like loose cannon who's just like throwing wild cards all over the place. Like, I mean, obviously I would want someone a bit different.
Yeah, it's not like he's just like Dave from the frat house.
Yeah,
that, like, like jumps off the roof on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like the president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't need like, I don't know. I don't like the type of like wild card that like people, you know, were getting out of Trump, you know, and they're like, oh, like a DC insider. I'm just like, you know, I'm like they kind of need to know how that shit functions. Because see, now that we got an outsider or someone who was, you know, trying to drain the swamp, as they say, clearly lived in Swamp USA. You know,
well, his staff is from the swamp.
Yeah, staff is from the swamp. And Trump, I always tell people, I'm like, Trump owns the swamp. Trump owns the land that the swamp is on. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these people are clearly just from there, and he like brought them along with him, and you know, had the ruse to make people think that, you know, oh, I'm gonna be doing something different. Like, oh, I'm an outsider. You can trust me. Like, I'm not gonna do anything that any other president was doing before. And now we see like, was a bad idea, you know?
So I fully agree with the point you're making. I think there's an additional point to be made about, it goes back to what we were talking about with tax returns and how so much of the United States system is set up through like expectation and precedent of like a person who is running for president will do these things, like release the tax returns, like like not firing the FBI director in that way. Like, there's so many things that it's
On
expected
Twitter.
that you will do, but it's like there's this assumption that the president will behave in a certain way because they always say like when the man is in the, and I say man because that's what they'd be saying, and there's no Hillary Clinton didn't win, but like that the office will bring that person up. That like if you're acting a certain way, which makes no sense. Yeah. But
clearly we see like that's not it's not the case no more.
And so it's like if people are going to be like we could talk about Brian Kemp. Like if he's not going to recuse himself as the Secretary of State from touching anything voter related, we need to make laws that prevent someone who is in charge of that, like that forces them to recuse themselves.
You shouldn't.
And it's like we can't just be expecting
right.
people to do the right thing when we see that they're not doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
And it's like what's scary is that we expect people to act a certain way when they're at a certain level of power, and like you see like I don't want to keep talking about Hitler because it's not entirely relevant.
So comparable.
But it's like people didn't, when he was coming to power, he started doing things that people were like, oh, like that's not, you're not really supposed to do that, but like he won't do the next, like he won't escalate this further. He won't do this. And it's like, and not even just Trump, but it's like we're seeing people do this kind of stuff where they're saying like, oh, there's no laws preventing me from doing it, like I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like if I'm not, because it used to be that like the punishment was like political, like oh, they won't vote you back into office because people will say, oh, that was a bad thing that he did, but it's like that's clearly not happening.
Yeah, and clearly people are still just voting these people into office, like Steve King. Like you used to not be able to say, I'm like all for the progression of the white race. You know what I mean? Mainly, like predominantly, I want white people, like white Americans, like European white culture or whatever, to be the dominant culture in America. You know what I'm saying? Like, who is the one fucking dude who got smacked in the face or who got punched? The white, the neo-Nazi.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It wasn't David Duke. It was
no, it was the younger guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
the one who
Richard
did,
Spencer.
Who had
Rich Spencer,
right?
and it's some Spencer, and you know everyone, he got all like this positive press, like they were like, oh, the dapper neo-Nazi or the dapper white nationalist.
Oh well, the New York Times is just obsessed with writing like profiles on white nationalists.
Exactly, and so like he got all this like positive praise, and just like Steve King, but it was like, you know, people are still voting Steve King in office. It's just nowadays
in Iowa.
Yeah, in Iowa, but like it used to not be okay to just be
no, it was politically
racist.
Unsavory to do that. You would say like, oh, this kind of person who has these kind of views couldn't run. Yeah, and it's like it's the same issue with oh, why is his name escaping me? The pedophile who was running for office in Georgia.
Yep.
Roy Moore.
Thank you. And
the first thing I've known
Roy
for
Moore,
this podcast.
I mean, his name has just been seared into your mind.
Yo, it was a huge issue. I don't know. Can I sidebar you?
Yeah.
I was working at a clothing brand, and we were very like there would be like about social rights and, you know, like social justice and being like aware of like what was going on in, you know, in the political climate. However, we used Uline, but you know everyone knew Uline was like very right wing because the people who run it, like the CEO and the president, like the owner, are very like vocal with their views. And towards like when all this stuff with Roy Moore was coming out, and you know, and like he didn't end his, you know, his campaign, even though everyone was like, yo, like bro, like it's time to have a seat, like you're gonna lose, you know what I mean, like you're essentially at this point you're wasting money. But yeah, for some reason people were like, how is he like still have money to be running, you know, like the only reason was Richard Uline, who runs Uline, which almost every single company uses to get like boxes and like, you know, all that shit, a lot of like stationary stuff. He was his angel investor who was just, everyone was pulling out their investments, you know, from Roy Moore. And once all this stuff came out, Richard Uline gave him more money. He was like, no, I'm gonna double down on this. It's like, I'm putting all my money on red, you know what I mean? And so I was like, I had tried to like talk to them about it, but it didn't work. They still use Uline because I mean, it was kind of like, it's kind of unparalleled. They have like kind of a monopoly on the cardboard boxes
box
game.
business.
Yeah, the box business. Yeah, but that was just
Big box.
But not a lot of people were confused as to why. Roy
That's
Moore,
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people confused as to why Roy Moore was able to keep his campaign going, because he essentially did run out of like funding at one point. But
Yeah, because eventually, like, the Republican, like, funding committees will be like, okay,
it's
not...
like, oh, we're gonna, like, you know, kind of just
They
take a
held
step
out
away.
exceptionally long, though, for him.
100%, yeah, and it's clear. It's like, yo, this guy clearly has an, affinity for, a taste for young ladies, like, and young ladies.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
Yeah, younger ladies.
Two young ladies.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a thing, like, everyone just knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like a story that, like, you know what I mean? Like, just like in your town, like, oh, like, Mr. Johnson's a little weird,
A little touchy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he likes to, give, like, shoulder massages during class. Like, no, this is a guy, like...
No, he's a pedophile.
Yeah, he's a pedophile. It's like, you want to talk about R. Kelly, let's talk about this guy who's in office, doing the exact same thing.
Although, we should talk about R. Kelly.
Yeah. We could talk about the pop culture.
That's not the
episode.
time, but just...
But it's just one of those things where people make exceptions, and me personally, I feel like people make exceptions for old white males. Like, we're gonna hold R. Kelly accountable and be like, we don't play his music anywhere, we don't do this. But Roy Moore's running for office, but it's like, you know what? It's like, oh, I get he like likes young girls, but like they might have been lying. They might not remember. Just like with Dr. Ford, like it's like, oh, what was she wearing? It's like, oh, it's just this is all innuendo, blah blah blah. Like, not really putting all the blame specifically on this male who is the one who is the dominant one who's like pushing himself on these younger women. It's most likely no girls kind of, coming on to Roy Moore. I've seen what he looks like.
I would say it's a strong no.
Exactly. So there's no one seducing him.
Yeah.
He's pushing himself on these young women and got a name for it. Mm-hmm. But was just still got to be in office. You know what I mean? Like, and so I thought that was one thing. I just thought that was, I like, definitely... Going back to what I was saying about the company I was working at, I kind of looked at the company a little differently after that, because I was like, if we really stand for like these rights, this is one thing where we got to be like, we're gonna have to draw the line here and just deal with the, logistical repercussions afterwards.
Yeah.
But
kind of hard to. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to from a business standpoint, and that's why I always say like, that's what I was saying, like capitalism should be a political party, because if you're worried about your money at the end of the day, which is a huge part of American society.
So my demographic for this podcast, not that I have a huge
following. Oh no, you for sure do.
Oh yeah,
Nah, you're definitely.
MSNBC is listening.
Yeah, MSNBC is mostly New York, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Who are people? I mean, this is mostly blue, but like, who are people voting for if they vote Democratic or Republican in these midterms on today?
So there's one person I'm thinking of that is from upstate, and
do you follow New York politics like a lot? Or
I've been really following Georgia just since I've moved there.
Mm-hmm.
And New York, this is like, heck, this is bad of me, but it's like,
that's just kind of...
It's my state level people are, like, the governor's going to be Democrat as of right now. Cuomo is not going to lose the Republican. I'd be, like, strike me down. Like, I would be shocked. But, in terms of, like, and I live in Putnam County, which is, like, a little red dot and, like, all the blue around us. So they typically do vote for Republicans, unfortunately.
Okay, word.
You are. I don't know why I always think Putnam Valley is in Dutchess, but Putnam doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There is. Let me gotta find this guy's name. He's running. I want to say takes part of Orange County. Mm-hmm. He's a Democrat. He's black, and they've been. his Republican opponent has been talking about how I guess he made rap music for a little while.
Yes,
and he was
that's
like,
right.
He doesn't support us, and it's like,
New
by
York
us, you just need white people.
Yeah,
Like,
basically, yeah, it's like this inner city rapper. It's like, just go ahead and say black
like
person.
it.
Just go ahead and say it. Like, there's no, because that's what, I mean.
It's Antonio Delgado
Yeah.
is the man's name. He's running for New York's 19th congressional district.
You might like mad.
He's a
They're all
41-year-old
listening to
lawyer.
Rap.
he made rap music, and it's like, who cares?
Everyone in Dutchess, Orange County, like all the kids are listening to the rap. Like no
Yeah.
one's just like strictly listening to fucking.
But even at
Kentucky
that,
Fried.
it shouldn't matter that he like,
No, it shouldn't matter.
you know,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it shouldn't like.
Oh, it's
It's ridiculous.
racist.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. It's it's racist.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, like, that's-
he's a rapper.
that's
He
the
can't be
thing, is
president,
it's
or
just
he
like-
can't run for office.
What?
Yeah, it's yeah. So that's an interesting race, but I don't know if anyone I would assume no one's in that district that you're friends with, but. Yeah, I've been bad. I haven't really followed New Jersey, but my advice would be
'Cause I just,
not to
like-
plug Pod Save America too much, but their website, Vote Save America, has a lot of information on
They
like
have a show
competitive
now,
races.
right?
Yeah, on HBO.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say like there's like Vote Save America is a good website. There's quite a few if you just look up like resources for your area. There's
Yeah, that's
so
a really
many.
cool thing that they're doing. Yeah.
There are just like so many people who, if you just look up like your district, you can find. And there's also like Ballotopedia is a really good resource. You can look at like the history of your district and like who's been running, and they have usually like good little profiles on people. Because like candidates' websites usually aren't the best place to go because they have what they say their platform is, but like a lot of Republicans say they want to protect pre-existing conditions and they don't.
And then they end up voting
Yeah.
the opposite.
It's like your record says otherwise, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say check out that website, and also if there are races you're interested in, like if you want Beto to win, like throw him $20. Like it's, you know, it's like I try to, I don't have big money to donate, like I'm broke, but like it's always like, you know, like don't have a coffee for a week and give that $20 to a candidate who's running, because
Yeah.
I do think it's really dope that you're canvassing in Georgia. Like that's something I
should have changed my registration and voted in Georgia. I want my New York license, but like I would have loved to vote for Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
I'm about to get a Georgia license.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I can't re-register in Ohio since I don't live there anymore. But I'm going to, and I kind of wish I had beforehand, because I didn't know like what was at stake in Georgia.
yeah.
So I would have done it a long time ago if I had known, like, wait, like this Brian Kemp, you know, Stacey Abrams situation was, you know, afoot. But yeah, no, I commend you for that, because that's something my ass wouldn't be doing. I wouldn't be out knocking on people's doors.
It's
you
like
know
a
what I
little
mean?
scary, but when you do a few, it gets easier. And
Also,
I've only had a few doors slammed in my
yeah.
face.
Also, people can't. I've definitely heard of like black males canvassing and getting the cops called on.
Well, yeah.
So it's also one of those things where I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
Especially in me being from the South, like.
You know.
Not knocking on random white folks' doors isn't always the best idea, but you know.
Yeah.
it
What's
can't
interesting about Stacey Abrams is that she is obviously focusing on all Georgians, but is particularly trying to get the vote out for Black and Latino voters, because a lot of times they're not even, like, their doors aren't even knocked on.
Yeah, you're right. They don't go to certain neighborhoods.
Yeah. And so I know she's been focusing a lot more on that, and like where I've been knocking doors, it's definitely been not primarily white. So
Yeah.
that's
I
what
mean,
I love about Atlanta. I just moved from Boston, and I'm just like, Boston's the whitest city. I was like, it's so nice to be around
Atlanta
like
is
all different
dope.
kinds of people.
Yeah.
Just like a
Atlanta's dope.
Cortez, you know? Like,
Oh, yeah.
She did the same thing, and here she is. Or similar. I don't know. But
She's hustling.
she's hustling. And we've been at this for like an hour and a half.
I was gonna say, I'm looking at
I was
the
like,
clock.
this is gonna be a mini-sode for 30 minutes. No.
Right, yeah.
It's a full-fledged.
There's definitely stuff you could cut.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I don't want to. This is really great. Like, really great.
Yeah, we didn't really follow the script, but I think we talked about really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And yeah, I think I just need to watch the Food Network for the rest of the day. And,
Yeah.
like,
Is
I
there?
watch a lot of Bob's Burgers.
yeah.
Hey, I
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah.
Is there
You see my Tina
another?
costume?
Do you see my Tina sticker on my mouth? Oh my god, yes.
Is there another something like you want to cover? Because I mean, you had the script. I was just the one who's
I don't-
making you deviate from it.
There was a lot of random stuff. I mean, so I think we should do a separate episode about Khashoggi, whatever. This poor man.
This poor murder victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the U.S.-Saudi relationship, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there, and I think people are kind of confused about that, in that it's like, oh, like we're allied with Saudi Arabia, but like 15 of the 18 people involved in 9/11 were Saudi citizens.
Yeah. Also, I don't think a lot of people actually know that happened, because I think people.
Absolutely.
I think people would be shocked, like I was saying, that someone walked into a building just to like
had his fingers chopped off. He was trying to. So the reason he went in the building was to get divorce documents, so that from his wife that he had in Saudi, they were divorced for like a long time, and he wanted to marry his Turkish fiance, but without the divorce documentation, he wouldn't be able to marry her. So he was just trying to get documents.
So and then is essentially jumped and murdered by like what they try to call like a kill
rogue
team.
assassins.
Yeah, rogue assassins. Like, they were just
rogue assassin just sitting in the Saudi embassy.
Chilling, right? Just chilling in the Saudi embassy, and it's just made zero sense. And like, so just like, I don't know, are like American assassins just chilling in the American embassy in Saudi Arabia? You know, like, do assassins just kind of congregate in one place? It's like, oh yeah, like, you know, like there's like cop bars. Are there assassin bars? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, the information that they were putting out there just didn't line up.
The worst part about it was that I really like, I don't want to go too into this, because like,
I know.
we should even the three of us do this again for the next one, but
I'd love to.
I think the absurdity of it all is that the United States president is using the same language that the Saudis are using about this cover-up. And it's just like so
scary.
deeply unacceptable.
Yeah.
And like,
no, yeah, you're right. It's fucking scary. Because then it's like, well, you're not like the prince. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be.
well, it's like, why is your alliance to him so strong?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Is it financial interest? Maybe.
Odds are.
And
odds are it's a lot deeper than finance, I feel. But yeah.
Okay. We should close out for now. And then I wish, yeah. Would you come back?
Yeah, I'll come back. I told you, I love coming to this neighborhood. I live in fucking Bushwick. It's like it's nice, but
this is quiet.
my park is.
It's much better to drive here than in Bushwick.
And
my cousins live in Bushwick, and I was just like, like.
Yeah, and you'll get your microphone. And
yes,
because
I've had Amazon's been giving me some shit, but
yeah, we could have a whole episode on Amazon.
If you're listening, Amazon.
Fuck Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
More like Jeff Bozo. I say that joke all the time. That's like, I'm glad someone else.
I'm gonna add that. I like that.
Okay, so
Bozos.
At the end of every episode, I'm trying to say goodbye to my sound guy, Will, because he wants us to say goodbye. So bye, Will.
Goodbye, Will.
Later, Will.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Love you both. Okay. Goodbye.